Our electrical team have been working away for the last couple of months on the lighting design and the installation for the boxes. And they're quite a special, unique lighting package. And it's really significant moment for the lighting design today, and that's that the conservation architect has signed off on the design for the lighting for those boxes. So now we've done one box as the sample, we'll bring it over to the Royal box and finish that one too. So in the next couple of months, both boxes will have their actual lighting in them fully working and going, and this is what they're going to look like. Back out here on the theatre's west wall, and we're just finishing off the remediation works on some of these columns. And what we've done is we've broken out the spalled concrete. We're now cutting out the corroded bits of reinforcing, and here you can see we're welding back in new non-corroded bits of reinforcing to put the strength back in the building so that we can then cover it back up with new concrete and the building's as good as new. We're here today working on the Heritage Tower on Queen Street. We know a lot of you have asked for it, so we're giving you a bit of an update for it, and we've got a bit of a surprise. We've got a bit of a plan for the historic tower on Queen Street. We've got to do some structural upgrade works on the gantry, so we've got to remove the scaffolding that's been covering it for the last 10 years and rebuild, do the structural work, rebuild the base, and then rebuild the entire scaffold and recover it up. So there's going to be this window of 3 or 4 weeks where the public can see this tower that hasn't been seen in like 75 years. It was originally covered up in the 1950s when the Queen came, and the fashion changed from these sort of ornate, historic looking facades to sort of more monolithic, sort of plain corrugated facade that it had right up until 2016. Here's a really good example of what has happened to this facade since it was built in 1928. Essentially, this is an amazing, bright coloured glazed tile facade that runs around the entire tower itself, and it was painted all this monolithic creamy colour because they wanted it to all just blend in, and that's how fashion changed. And what we're doing before we pull the scaffolding down is actually giving it a quick bit of love and restoring just that glazed tile to give people a glimpse of what it will look like once it's restored. So come with us and check it out. So when we did the demolition on this part of the complex back in 2016, we removed 3 layers of facade that had been put up and essentially covered this amazing ornate historic tower. And you can actually see that so much of the detail is still intact. It's going to be a really quite straightforward restoration job. And these panels here that you can see, for example, would have originally been finished in materials like gold leaf. This was a statement piece on Auckland's Queen Street. This was fancy, and we can't wait to bring it back to life. Here we are at the top of the historic tower. We're about 30 metres above Queen Street at this point, and what you can see now that we've removed or done the first sort of initial passes of removing all the coatings that were over these brilliant glazed tiles is this geometric patterning that's on them. And what's interesting about like the geometric patterning is it often you could tell where these came from by the designs that were on them. So this is a Moorish geometric pattern, and they tend to originated out of Northern Africa. And how you can sort of tell this is they did patterns that weren't allowed to represent life or living things. So these were geometric patterns like basket weave and like those historic classic patterns that you see in that part of the world. So all this facade that you see here today was covered up in the 1950s when the Queen came, and then when we removed the layers of facade that was covering it in 2016, it was then covered straight away with the scaffolding to protect it, and we're now removing it, and you're going to get a chance to see it for the next 3 weeks or so. These really ornate features like these candy cane columns with amazing capitals would have been really brightly decorated in materials like gold leaf, and they would have been polychrome, so like many colours. And it would have been a real statement in this part of Midtown.
So we've been out here for about a week bringing these tiles back to their bright former glory, and to do that we've used a sort of specialist paint stripper to strip the paint. The reason we do that is because it's most likely a lead-based paint. Once we hit it with a coat of the stripper, we let it sit for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and come back and use these copper and brass wire brushes to work it in and take a layer of paint off, and we'll come back and do that 4 or 5 times maybe. The reason we use the copper and brass wire brushes is because the glazed tiles are quite delicate, and if we use a steel wire brush or something similar, we'll scratch the surface and damage the tiles. After we've let the paint stripper sit, I'll probably spend, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes per tile just scrubbing it in, working it in, rinse it off, move on to the next tile, and once I've done a strip I'll come back, add another layer of paint stripper, let it sit and repeat. If you're down on Queen Street over the next few weeks and you're outside the Civic, take a look across the road and you'll be able to see this border of tiles, especially in the afternoon when the sun's shining. They'll really look quite cool.
We've finally started on the Lorne Street exterior works. This has been a long time coming and something we've put off for as long as possible just to try and minimise street disturbance, but we're now at a point where we have to get into it, and we've started. So just like we've done on the Queen Street side of St James, we're removing the exterior leaf of bricks and replacing that with a reinforced concrete wall. And what you can see here is we're actually working about 3/4 of a metre below the street level. So the street level over the years has been built up. So one of the quirks of the Lorne Street wall at St James is we've got these ornate pieces of plasterwork that are actually built into the wall itself. So we remove this brick by hand so that we don't damage these ornate interior elements, and then we will be wrapping these to make sure that they're kept safe throughout the construction of the new wall, and then they'll be permanently encapsulated in that new wall and form part of the structure itself. So as we come up the building on this Lorne Street face, what we're having to do is, as we're completing parts of the brick removal, we're having to remove the windows, and we're removing these, packaging them up and sending them off for restoration so that when we put the new walls in, they can be put back in exactly how they were in 1928. This wall's going a lot quicker than the west wall or the Queen Street wall has, and the reason is that we've actually already completed all the structural repairs. So we've broken out the spalled concrete, welded new reinforcing steel in, and recast new columns already on this face. So this face is going a lot quicker than the other wall has.